Hi there, today on this video we're talking about growling. Grassing was another term for it, but mainly growling people would use, giving you that rock and roll sound. Okay, so how are we getting to that type of sound? Firstly, this is a sound that's been used for some considerable time, going back into the sort of 40s and 50s. Some of the great exponents of this, the old sort of honkers and screamers, people like Red Prysock and Lee Allen, Big J McNeely, working into the sort of 60s, 70s, King Curtis, Junior Walker. And then of course more modern players, people like Clarence Clemens, who was with the E Street Band, Bruce Springsteen's band, most fantastic growler, virtually used it as his tone very exclusively. Everybody's growl is going to sound slightly different. It's basically achieved by you humming and blowing at the same time into the back of your throat, so you're getting this kind of noise. Into the back of your throat there. Now you would notice that of course that this is going to form in effect a note. It has got pitch to it. I've never particularly worried about whether the pitch of the growl actually matches the note that I'm going to play. It doesn't work like that for me, and I don't think for most other players. We just tend to growl one pitch and then so we're hearing that one pitch going on in the back of our throat. Now I do hear it said some guys talk about humming and then playing a third above, and sometimes I've even heard a third below the actual note that you're going to hum. Personally, I don't use that method, but if you are into that, then and it works for you, then that's great. But just be aware that some educators and players would use that type of method. I would say to you that it's probably harder to get the growl and to sustain the growl the lower that you go. It tends to sort of bow out a little bit once you get down to the bottom notes there, but the higher you go, the more effective that they can sound. Okay. Now, one thing that I find most useful, most players would need to have the ability to be able to turn this growl on and off. Because it's going to be quite necessary for you as a player to play different genres of music and to get enjoyment from all of that, and not all of the genres of music are going to require you to be able to growl. So if you can turn it on and off, that's fantastic. If you're lucky enough to be a sort of specific, Clarence Clemens type of player, Junior Walker type of player, you may well go for a growl that you sprinkle liberally over everything that you do. Okay, there is some great publications on the subject. A lot of people cover this particular subject. There's a really smart book out there which is called Learn to Play Rhythm and Blues Saxophone by a fellow called Mark McGee, and that gives you some great insight into how to get the growl going, and it also comes with a CD, I think, as well, so you can hear his examples going on in there. It's going to be quite important that you listen to players and you try and pinpoint and become aware of the different types of growls that they put together. One excellent box set, which is called the Honkers and Screamers, is by a record company called Proper Records, P-R-O-P-E-R, Proper Records, the history of the Honkers and Screamers, and that gives you somewhere in the region of about sort of 30-40 different guys, all from the kind of 30s through to the 50s and 60s, with recordings on them, details about them, and that's a really excellent set of sort of source material there, because you can get to grips with all the different sounds that they've made, which basically are the growl, but it works differently for every person. Okay, so finally then, once you add these growlings into things like spills and fall-offs, scoops, false fingerings, all that kind of stuff, you're then really starting to get into the kind of rock and roll technique, the rock and roll sound. So amongst everything else here, go and have some fun. It will tickle in the back of your throat to start with. It will sort of cause you a little bit of a sore throat probably for the first couple of days, but get growling, get humming. People will look at you a little bit strange because you'll be walking around, I suppose, going all over the place. But just live with it and learn to do it. The most difficult thing about it is really to get that hum going whilst you blow at the same time. But once you've learned to do it, it's very similar to the kind of riding the bike situation. You won't ever forget how you achieve that. So good luck with it.